All right, testing 1 2 is gray matter. I'm watching, a video because people are arguing about who will win in a fight, Goku or Batman, if we're just using only martial arts. I got a lot to say about it. I'm watching this person's right here, Dragon Ball for Life, his debunk video on it. I just found his channel literally like, yeah, 30 minutes ago. I've been just watching his video, and personally, this is why I can't stand the people who just blindly follow like power scalers and whatnot. Because we were talking about this, and well, watch Seth the Programmer. Seth got shit wrong. Period. All right, like the dude, he's human. Okay, there's too many other factors that we need to bring in this, but what irked me was what this man said about Kefla. If I can find that part.
Themselves. So those are two
not him. I'm talking about Seth the Programmer, which is the video we're watching in the corner here.
Mindset. So obtaining master ultra instinct is not just from training; it's also a mindset. And with Gods of Destruction, their mindset.
And I'm glad he's explaining this.
It's contradictory. Also,
Goku is trained. Like, first things first, I don't know why we're even bringing up, Dragon Ball Super, because in Super, Goku's peak martial arts prowess was not displayed. Like, oh, he fought Hit, who could hit. The only thing Hit had was the time travel or the ability to attack into the future. I'll give you that, but Goku has fought people who've attacked his pressure points before. Okay, he's done that throughout Dragon Ball. That's nothing fucking new. The concept of Ultra Instinct also isn't anything fucking new. It's like, once again, that was covered in Dragon Ball. You want to see Goku's, crazy ass martial arts ability be explained? Watch Dragon Ball. Hell, I'm about to go back into it, bro. Like, we about to do this shit. Like, fuck.
He stated that Goku before just threw his weight around and didn't use his, martial arts skills, but now he's more martial arts focused. That's also wrong. I think this is big problem a lot of people get. They're like, Dragon Ball was more martial arts oriented, and then this one they just got power. But here's the way I see it. For Dragon Ball, it was like, yes, it was more martial arts oriented, but it was more that, oh, this is the beginning, so we're going to explain how martial arts works, this fighting and that. And Dragon Ball, it was basically being more detailed and going more in depth and explaining it. Whereas in Dragon Ball Z, these guys already, where they had perfect control of their, ki.
Well, yeah, in Dragon Ball Z, they had perfect ki control. That was the whole point. And I'm glad he's also explained, because Seth the Programmer in his video said that Goku, was now martial arts focused now that Super came out, because before he was just focusing on power. That's bullshit. Hell, in Z, watch his training with Gohan and actually really look into it. Like, like when Goku was trying to achieve the next state, right? The ascension of regular Super Saiyan. He was powering up and found out that the form that was more powerful than what he already had was useless because it was bulky. Okay, so they went the skillful route. Master your ki to the point where you can let it out in short bursts and be more explosive with your transformation. They took that route over the overpowered bulky form because Goku is a martial artist and he prefers skill, technique, speed, precision over power. Although power is still a thing that he was seeking, because your punches still need to hurt. Okay, like you could be a skilled martial arts fighter, but if you're like mad, like weak, with no control over your muscles, you're not gonna hurt your opponent.
Able to use it better, knew how to fly, and knew how to fight, so they didn't need to explain everything. Dragon Ball was more, let's explain it more in depth because this is where they're starting off at, and then Dragon Ball Z is, they've mastered it to the point where we don't need to explain it, so they didn't go into deep detail with all their fighting style. Because if you look at Goku's fighting style in Z, it improved than what he had as a kid. You can see his movements are fluid, his blocking, his dodging, his striking, his punches, his kicks, his elbow attacks, except for grappling, but I'll talk about that later. but you can see his striking is more fluid. It's just that they don't hyper focus on what he's doing, like in, Baki or Kengan Asura or Kengan Omega, where they're specifically focusing. Oh, if you throw a counter punch like this, you will block like that, and then you do this technical move and that. They're going more in depth in technical aspect, whereas Dragon Ball Z, they just showcase that technical aspect without actually talking about it. So I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. Because if you look at purely just what he's doing, his martial arts moves and his ability, you can see he actually is doing martial arts.
Well, nobody pays attention. They need things to be stated blatantly. They need to be spoon-fed the shit to understand the shit. That's the problem I have with a lot of fucking anime fans. That's why people still think that Ichigo was only planetary. Because y'all need to be spoon-fed shit instead of paying attention to the actual story.
Abilities without it going in depth. I think that's the only thing there.
The strongest mortal warrior in the multiverse could easily blink away, to actually giving him a fight landing blows and forcing Jiren to actually activate enough of his power that his aura appears, even though it's the same level of strength as something Jiren could blink away.
No, when Goku, and this guy actually explains it too right here, but when Goku got more powerful, he got more powerful, okay? Soon as Ultra Instinct hit, he was able to box with people that was fucking him up immensely. Like in Dragon Ball, okay, in Dragon Ball Z, if you are not on somebody else's pay, you're not in their pay grade, you can't fuck with them, period. Their speed is greater, their physical capability is greater, and their durability is greater, okay? So the fact that Ultra Instinct Goku was even able to touch Jiren means that Goku got more powerful. He got closer to that level. Hell, and then, you read the manga and everything, like people more powerful than Goku, i.e. Black Frieza, was able to just one-shot him in an even more powerful Ultra Instinct state than he was when he was fighting Jiren. So no, it's been proven that yes, Ultra Instinct gets overpowered if the person is more powerful than you are. Because all it is it's a power-up, yes, but it's still Goku's body acting on his own, or without him needing to put too much thought into it, which is only limited by Goku's capabilities. So Goku doesn't have the capability, his body can't fucking do it. So saying that, oh, he, was weaker than Jiren, but still was able to face him. Bullshit. Bullshit. He had to be on Jiren's level to even be able to touch him.
More detail, UI is something that allows you to face people above your pay grade, period. That's kind of the point.
No, it's not.
Shown in his fight with a few super warrior from the same universe.
Super warrior.
Kefla. In this fight,
Kefla.
that even though Kefla is so powerful, she can kill Goku in literally one hit, which is...
Oh my gosh. First things first, I can't stand how in Dragon Ball Super they make statements but then don't even properly display these statements. I'll explain later. Just watch. Yeah, he could still react to and damage her because he was on that level. Oh no, if Goku gets hit, he's gonna die. Goku was tired here. And his body was still able to react to and damage Kefla.
Without specific moves. Examples like Krillin's Destructo Disc, etc. But this is more impressive.
Goku hit her with a Kamehameha though. You have to be the same output as your opponent to even be able to damage somebody with the Kamehameha. It's not like Destructo Disc.
As it is pure striking. The Ultra Instinct technique lets Goku move so accurately and fluidly he can dodge Kefla like she's an amateur. But
well, he still had to be that fast. And what do you mean like an amateur? She is an amateur, okay? When Kaba was looking for warriors for determine the power, he didn't even consider Khalifa until literally she was the last choice, okay? And Kale is not even a fucking fighter. She was coming along for the ride, okay? The only time Kale even did something was when she went berserker. So you have a fighter who isn't even like that skilled, doesn't go out on the missions with the other Saiyans. Kaba was in the army. Khalifa wasn't. Okay, I think she was like a bandit or something. Close to it. Essentially a street rat. So you're telling me that the street rat and the person who was too scared to even do anything, didn't even fucking fight when she wasn't transformed into her berserker rage, got her ass beat the entire fucking tournament, and only did something when she powered up and went green, hulked out essentially, which is not what the transformation is supposed to do, but whatever, fuck it. She gets Brawly's form and now she's a threat. So you but skillfully, hand to hand wise, they're not even on fucking Goku's level. Goku has schooled Khalifa on several occasions before they even fucking fused. And you're talking about them like, oh, they're not an amateur. They are amateurs. They are amateurs. They didn't even know what the fuck Super Saiyan was until like a couple of days before the tournament of power. They don't even have mastery over their forms like that. And if they do, that makes no damn sense. And despite that, they're still fucking new. So even if they have mastery over the forms, they're still new at it. They just got the shit. So they don't even know how to properly apply their mastery over the form, which is still not mastery. This is... I hate the Kefla hype. I really do. And people think it's because, you know, because you see it all over the internet. You hate women in Dragon Ball being strong. No, no. Android 18 kicking Vegeta's ass was amazing. Watching this shit is just like, no, you're trying to make these characters out to be more than what they have been displayed to be. They don't showcase that martial arts skill. They throw their power around wildly. They just got their new transformations literally yesterday. And you're telling me that they're on Goku's level. Fuck out of here.
He doesn't actually have his striking mastered in instinct, so his punches don't actually hurt her and aren't nearly on the level of his evasion. His punches are more akin to his actual level of strength, or what he should be able to output, yet with the UI he's able to amp his evasion to that level. However, with the full UI, it's implied with that his raw skill alone would then make him simply be able to strike with such proficiency, he could damage people on Kefla's level. Even if he had the same...
On Kefla's level? Jiren's beyond Kefla. By leagues. Leagues. Kefla wasn't stated to be beyond the gods, but Jiren was.
Actual power level with just strength. We also see this in the same tournament.
Look at him. Base form, and keep in mind, he's already been fighting for a while. Look at it. She's Super Saiyan 2. He's base form with scratches and battle damage from fighting Jiren and everybody else. She comes in, he's literally just blocking that shit. You can't block somebody unless you have the same power output / durability.
I don't agree with that. He's saying basically that his master form didn't get him stronger or you know, more durable. All it did was make his attacks more precise, so it felt like it hurt more. No, he does definitely get stronger physically and all of those other attributes.
Yeah,
it's just that
it's a fucking power up.
So goes up.
It's an amp.
So he's saying that. So like just to explain like completely, he's saying that the attacks that he's hitting them with, like his power didn't change. So when he goes to Master Ultra Instinct, it's not different than when he was in his regular UI form. The power is still there. It's just that it's more accurate and sharp, so it hurts more. No, I don't agree with that. I think he definitely got stronger. He would have gotten at least 2, maybe 3 times stronger than he was in his regular UI form. I don't agree with that. Anybody you can see that does multipliers and power scaling can tell you that the power is not just the skill level is different, it's also the power level is different too.
Khalifa in his normal state, well, she is a Super Saiyan 2, and a Super Saiyan 2 is 100 times the power, speed, and durability of a Saiyan's base form. And
it doesn't matter. The fact that Goku's yeah, the fact that Goku
is simply very strong in just his normal form, which
yes,
I would agree with. But other characters, like another angel who uses instinct, Vados, says that Goku is actually just so skilled he can beat a higher transformed Saiyan despite not transforming himself.
Well, yet once again, yes, he's so skilled he can literally deflect her attacks without putting in much effort. But at the same time, he wouldn't even be able to block her kicks if his power wasn't already there. That's the thing. He's blocking kicks with his arm. Casually. He's more powerful than Khalifa. Period. Like, in the story. Shit. I don't even know why we're fucking like debating this shit.
While Shappa is in utter confusion about it, another warrior god.
How can she be losing? Can what's the name? Champa sense ki?
Millions of years old. So if you think that it's being implied Goku is only using skill and he and Caulifla are actually relative.
Because if he can't sense ki, this makes no damn sense why the fuck he's questioning what the fuck's going on.
And Goku's overcoming a 100 times difference in power, speed, and durability.
He's not overcoming shit. They're equal. Not even. Goku's beyond her. She had the power up to keep up with him.
With raw skill alone. And Ultra...
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. He's saying that base Goku and Super Saiyan 2 Kefla were on the same level of power. It was just that Goku was more skilled than her. Here's a couple problems with this. One, this arc, I hated it because of how inconsistent the power scaling was in the writing.
Thank you.
So there's a lot of contradictions between that. So I wouldn't go too much on the definition of like, oh, their powers are matched. Because they say that, and he's like, she's a brawler. He fought her for like, what? Like a couple of seconds, and she went from getting dogged by his base form to her overcoming his base form, and even him struggling in Super Saiyan 2 form. So he went from, in his base form, beating the crap out of her, within a couple of seconds somehow learning this fighting style, and then making him go Super Saiyan 2, and still whooping him. That is just dumb. I just feel like the problem with Seth taking literally what has been stated in Super, the problem is it's so inconsistent and contradictory. It kind of there's going to be some problems.
Hey, they did that with Superman too, in their honest review of Superman, or when it was talking, like, yeah, they said Goku wins, but at the same time, it's like you still like put Superman way beyond his pay grade. And they got some things wrong about Goku too. Like, it. Come on, man.
Inconsistencies with the logic in it. So yeah, unless you're saying Kefla is such a great Kale. I mean Kefla. Yeah, Kefla is such a genius that she can in a couple of seconds go from being a chump fighter to an expert. It's just ridiculous.
No.
I think that was just
like even Goku, who was able to master techniques by just looking at them, still had to do some training. He still had to train.
Terrible writing there for that situation, and saying like they're even in power. He was definitely more powerful than her. It was just bad writing.
Yeah.
Would only take this further.
Like hell, I've always argued that Kefla, Kale, fucking Kaba at best are Buu Saga level. At best. That's just it.
But UI also amplifies all of his evolutionary intuition. So all of those intuitions,
if anything, Hit was the only real threat from Universe 6.
Even crazier.
Hell, I fucking hate Super, and the fact I gotta explain this shit.
Is honestly a lot more well known and understood, more so than Goku's. The version of Batman I'll be using will be the current Infinite Frontier version, wherein he had all the memories of the handful of main continuity iterations of the character, and should therefore scale to the bulk of their feats. That being said, we'll be drawing from a well of nearly 80 years of Batman appearances, so there are bound to be some unimpressive showings.
Oh my gosh, look, having the memories of doesn't necessarily mean that you have the actual training. I could remember how to do something and not be able to do the shit because I haven't done it in a long ass fucking while. So unless Batman had the physical memories as well added along with his mental memories, that shit doesn't fucking mean shit.
However, it's safe to say that he's most consistently depicted as a top-tier fighter in the verse, with not many being able to eclipse his expertise. He's also constantly training and improving, so trying to cherry-pick anti-feats doesn't make too much sense when analyzing him in his current form or how he fights most consistently. In around a 12-year span...
Okay, before we get into that, I do agree with that. Don't cherry pick, and I mentioned in my other video where I talked about outliers and a little bit of outliers, but it was mainly.
I'm gonna cherry pick it if it fucking contradicts everything else. Just saying.
About
you can't say he's one thing and then that's not being shown.
Taking high-end feats and low-end feats, and a lot of people take low-end feats to downplay a character. But also, one problem I see with Seth that he does a lot is he takes high-end feats that are ridiculous and he over-exaggerates their abilities or what they're capable of. And he definitely does it with Batman in this video, and he's done it in other videos.
Thank you. Fuck, somebody saying it.
Pointed out, but it's more of a high-end feat. So yeah, don't cherry pick to make them weaker, but also don't cherry pick to make them sound untouchable either. I think that's also just as bad, and that's what he does in this video. I'm gonna get onto that. So yeah, I also have a big problem with him in that he says don't cherry pick and don't make them sound weaker, which I agree. But he cherry picks in this video, and I'll show you where it gets to the point where he over exaggerates his capabilities, and I'm just like, so it's not okay to use low end feats that make them look bad because that's not consistent, but it's okay to use overly ridiculous high end feats that doesn't make consistent. Batman does have consistencies, but he also has consistencies where he struggles a lot and fights against people that he shouldn't, i.e. the Joker. But yeah, let's just get into it.
That's what I'm getting at. Master martial artist, all this shit, still struggles with the Joker. Cassandra's actually better trained than Bruce is, and she can kick his ass. Like, Deathstroke, I believe, is an issue for Batman. I gotta look back into it, but I could have swore they were equal in skill. Then you have Ra's al Ghul. Like, there's a lot of people who could defeat Batman too, in hand to hand. Lady Deathstrike.
Alongside his time spent honing his various other skills. However, this is pretty basic in comparison to the Dark Knight's more impressive showings. For example, Deathstroke, someone Batman has stalemated very recently, was able to master virtually every fighting style in a year's time. He has the ability to read and predict an opponent's actions.
Wait a minute, Lady Deathstrike. Was there a Deathstrike in Marvel? Who's the Cassandra's mother? Like, I probably called her the wrong name, but yeah, look, Cassandra's mother could beat Bruce too.
As well as air currents, similar to Goku in early Dragon Ball actually, and he can recognize fighting styles on the spot, perceiving the origin points and natures of many different disciplines with a glance. He can move and fight with no conscious thought, simply reacting through pure instinct. In the Fortnite crossover comics, which yes, are canon, Fortnite is canon here, I'm not joking.
I know I'm going to pause quite a bit in these videos, this video because it had a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about him knowing every martial arts and every martial arts technique. I do think people over-exaggerate this a lot.
Yeah.
And some people might be like, what do you mean by over-exaggerated? They literally stated it. But if you understand martial arts, you will know why that, knowing every martial arts is not that impressive.
No, it's not.
And let's just get into it.
A lot of martial arts have similar moves, similar techniques. They just have different names. Hell, for example, like, people talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was derived from Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, okay? It was just a small section of it where they focused primarily on the grappling, i.e. the ground game, where Jiu-Jitsu has striking involved along with the ground game grappling. Now, of course, people are going to say that the Japanese form isn't as effective as Brazilian. Well, Brazilian is the main thing that everybody fucking trains in when dealing with sports, so of course people are going to come up with that fucking idea. But like hell, if you took judo, BJJ, and some striking arts, I forgot exactly which ones, and combine that all together, that'll just be Japanese jiu-jitsu in a nutshell, for example. So saying, oh, he knows all martial arts, bullshit. But I wouldn't say bullshit, but it is not that great, okay? And every fucking art form you can find has a way to throw a jab, has a way to throw a punch, has a way to take someone down. It has what you should do on the ground. It has kicks, okay? Maybe different variety, but it still has kicks, okay? This is why I argue that martial arts should not be based off of, if it works in the cage or not, especially when the cage has too many damn rule sets to allow certain martial arts to thrive and others not to. So, like, keeping that in mind, okay, and then knowing like how some styles are derivative from other styles and contain a lot of similar moves and similar techniques, mastering all of martial arts isn't really that impressive in the grand scheme of things. If you know how to block a punch, you know how to block a kick, you know how to deal with the opponent on the ground, you know how to counter grapples, you will be able to handle yourself in a majority of, cases dealing with other martial arts. Like, you could literally break it all down to 4 different sections with some additives, but I'm not going to go into details on that.
For one, there are countless martial arts out there, but majority of martial arts are pretty useless, if I'm being honest. A ton of martial arts fighting styles and techniques are very useless.
There's no such thing as a useless martial art. Take what you learn, apply it in combat, and you will get good. Period. Like, oh, useless. This is where I disagree with this man right here. There is no useless martial art. Like, hell, even the Tai Chi that they do for the old folk even has its uses. Even if it's just mastery over breathing technique. That breathing technique could aid you when striking. Like, there's no useless martial art in my book. And then real Tai Chi is more along the lines of wrestling anyway. It's a grappling art. But people will tell you, though, that it's useless. Even Aikido has uses. Especially when dealing with opponents who have weaponry or when you yourself have weaponry. Like like for example, a BJJ takedown is not going to work against somebody who has a knife. You're gonna get on them. You're gonna get, you know, I forgot what it was called. You're on top of them. You have your leg. You know, you're using your legs. You're across your chest. You have full like control over them when they're on the ground. I forgot the name for it because I don't practice BJJ. I just seen it in action. And when I say seen it, I like to watch a lot of martial arts. But you're on top, but the guy has a knife. He could just get to stabbing you. Okay. In Aikido, when you're on top and you have that control, once again, forgot the exact name of the move. There's too many fucking names out here. But you will have a free arm. Well, first of all, your body is completely out the way of being stabbed. You're grabbing the arm with the weapon in it. That's the point. And you're pinning them to the ground. And you can either take their weapon or use your weapon at your hip. Like, it's derived from sword culture. There's too much shit to explain with that too. But damn, I'm not a master at it. I know I'm rambling, but I'm not a master at it. But even I can see like what the application for it is.
A lot of times when you see them in, like, you know, fight, it doesn't really work out well, and it's usually situational.
Doesn't work out well, usually situational. First things first, if it doesn't work out well, that person was not skilled in the first place. I've seen a lot of Wing Chun quote-unquote masters who never even sparred a day in their life, but they somehow are a master, getting beat up by the MMA guy, and people use that shit and be like, yeah, the MMA is stronger. The MMA is the only real martial art and nothing else, when the Wing Chun guy was just a fraud. Like, period.
So it's really, you know, it really depends. And we see this definitely in MMA. In MMA, it's mixed martial arts, so it's many different martial arts forms that people combine. And if you see in mixed martial arts, there's always only a handful of martial arts that are used. And even throughout the world, the big ones are only a handful. Now, most of the other ones are used in movies, which are not really realistic. But if you ask anybody who has any expertise in martial arts, they will tell you themselves that majority of martial arts are useless. And a lot of them are, you know, with weapons or, you know, stuff that they used to do that a lot of people don't do now, especially in a hand-to-hand combat situation, they'll be pointless. And a lot of these techniques are...
They're pointless in the cage because you're, once again, rules and shit. I mean, you're not allowed to bite and gouge people's eyes out in the cage, but martial arts includes that. You get what I mean? Oh, it's useless. It's useless according to your rule set. And maybe even mindset. Probably majority mindset. Because it's like, you ask anybody with any martial arts like skill or proficient, and the majority of the time when they're talking about that, it's an MMA fighter. Or somebody whose background is mixed martial arts, MMA. Which is funny because what they're doing is they're taking a striking art, and then they're taking a grappling art and they're trying to smash it together, when in traditional martial arts, that art form covers striking and grappling. if you actually look into the real art form. Like, you don't just take something that was, you know, meant for military combat and then try to say it's useless now. I don't understand that shit. Because a lot of times it's just average everyday people who don't train as much, and then they try to fight somebody who trains, you know, fucking 2-3 hours a day every day, and they only train 2 hours a week. And then when they lose, they say that their art is useless. That's, you can't do that.
Also very ridiculous and are very situational, and they can work if you time it right, but a lot of times they do not work. A lot from like kung fu and stuff or wushu, they have a lot of techniques, but they're very useless. And I want to go in.
Look at how wushu was applied and tell me. Now imagine that wushu practitioner decide to just spar with those techniques.
In depth in that. Now, like in MMA, there's a few martial arts that only really get brought up and used: boxing, wrestling, BJJ, regular jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Muay Thai, maybe Lithuania, because that's also pretty big and also pretty good. Greco-Roman wrestling, sambo, combat sambo, and karate. Sometimes karate is not always does really great, but it can work. Judo, and I think those are pretty much it. Now there are other martial arts that train with weapons and stuff that work good, but those are purely with weapons, like Kali and stuff like that. They work with, like, you know, different types of sticks and you know knives, techniques and stuff. But we're talking about purely hand-to-hand combat, so those wouldn't matter. But those are usually the only martial arts that are really presented as actually working. If you look at other ones, like Kung Fu doesn't really work really well.
Kung Fu is an umbrella term. Like Shaolin by itself has like over, I think, like 100 some styles. Like, there's too much shit. Like, you say Kung Fu, that's a whole ass umbrella term.
Wushu is a part of Kung Fu. It doesn't work that well either.
Never mind. At this point, I'm about to write this guy off as he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Kung Fu doesn't work. So all of these styles from an entire country, southern and northern martial arts, just does not work. The entire umbrella term that covers the entire country does not work. So all of China gone. Just pfft, they don't know how to fight.
There is there's a couple, like Aikido doesn't work. Aikido doesn't really work very well.
Aikido. The last guy I seen who used Aikido and said didn't work never sparred. That's what I'm getting at. Aikido doesn't work. I'm a black belt. Well, who did you practice with? You never practiced? You never fought anybody? You just one day after some meditation went and tried to fucking, you know, fight a mixed martial artist who's been training and actually hitting people and is skilled with dealing with grappling, and you yourself have never applied those grapples to a real life resisting target. That's why it didn't fucking work.
There's a couple of other martial arts out there that don't work. So only a handful of martial arts are actually practical. So
there's no such thing as only. I don't fuck out of here, man. If you're training in an art form, keep training in that art form. Make sure you spar and make sure you apply it. Once you're going to realize what he's talking about is bullshit if you really are dedicated. If you're dedicated, what he's talking about is bullshit. Keep training. You don't have to be MMA to be able to fight.
Martial arts could work, like Taekwondo for example. I think it's a martial art that is not very practical in a fight, but there are some techniques that can be used that could use practically in a fight, especially if you.
It's not practical in a fight, but it can be used in a fight. Come on, man.
showing his just raw versatility. Tim Drake, the third Robin, was stated to be mostly reactive to someone perpetually seeing 5 seconds into the future. This Robin being fodder to Batman, meaning Batman would fare better against this level of foresight. The Dark Knight's pressure points are so potent that they can down Solomon Grundy, a Green Lantern, and a Superman level threat throughout the years. Pressure points are techniques intended to bypass conventional.
Okay, once again, well, not once again. Goku, did I bring this up already? How Goku fought people as a kid who used pressure points? So how the fuck would this work against Goku? Oh, it could deal with Solomon Grundy. Solomon Grundy's not a martial artist. He's not a fighter. Okay, a Superman level threat. Superman can't fight either. Okay, Superman's not a martial artist, nor is Solomon Grundy. So of course something that he's not expecting is going to hurt him.
Durability by targeting things such as nerve clusters, so this wouldn't scale to Batman's actual strength.
Okay, let's talk about the pressure point techniques, because this is used a lot in fiction and it's very nonsensical, but there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. He said one, Solomon Grundy's a Superman / Green Lantern level character. That's the thing about comics, they're very inconsistent. Yes, sometimes he can be that, but I highly doubt that version of Solomon Grundy, Batman, sorry, not Superman, Batman has fought. The ones that he fights, because like I said, sometimes his level differentiates. Sometimes he's just a Batman level, like, you know, a threat. Sometimes he's a Superman, Green Lantern level threat. So let's go by the more consistent, accurate depiction of him when Batman's fighting him. The one version that Batman usually fights is, you know, not that level. He's more like Killer Croc level or Bane level.
Well, yeah, and he's right about that. But once again, Grundy is not a martial artist. Last time I checked. I could be wrong on this. And even then, obviously, Grundy can't defend against pressure points, but Goku can. And has. On different occasions.
He's not Superman or Green Lantern level. Second of all, the pressure point technique doesn't really make sense on a dead guy, since pressure points would be attacking the nerves of a body. And when you're dead, your nerves would be all killed. So how the hell is he able to hit pressure points on Solomon Grundy and take him out or incapacitate him? That just seems very nonsensical.
Well, yeah, it does. Okay, like, hell. There's a lot of shit in comics that contradict themselves just by statements alone, but whatever.
So that is a little bit ridiculous. The other one about him forgetting and stuff, that one's pretty good. I would say that's mostly due to his body, you know, like I said, having muscle memory, and so it remembers what to do. But that's at least a really good feat. But this one, I think, is a little nonsensical. I want to go back a little because I want to see, he mentioned, oh yeah, he mentioned about Tim Drake's perception against that guy. That guy can see 5 seconds in the future. And this was obviously because Goku fighting against Hit and him can see into the future. He can see a lot more than him, but Hit also has super speed, whereas this guy is just a human. So 5 seconds to him, it's, you know, not that much time. But he said Tim Drake was able to see, but let's be honest, the guy who was fighting, was he an expert martial artist, or was he just an average Joe that can go 5 seconds in the future? And he was able to predict an obvious fighting style of a guy that doesn't know how to fight just 5 seconds in the future. That is not on the same level, because Goku was perceiving a guy that had high technical level of fighting, and he was able to counter it by looking to the future. And even though the future insight was higher for Tim Drake's one, remember, Tim Drake was against a human, so he would be a lot slower, whereas Goku was against a super fast guy. So even if that amount of time is short, for them it would be a lot longer with the, you know, amount of distance they're able to cover and what they're able to do with that you know, amount of time. So yeah, that argument is not going to work very well. But also the
I'm glad you explained it.
Technique thingy, the problem with that is fiction uses it so often, but it's so nonsensical, because if you ask any real martial artist or professional martial artist, not one of those guys that talk about, you know, the traditional ones and they're ridiculously spiritual or whatever. If you talk to an actual martial artist, they'll tell you that's all bullshit.
It's not all bullshit. Not even in a fucking, and I'm not coming from a spiritual, what do they call that? The qigong, you know, type of, which qi is just breathing technique. I forgot the name of that MMA fighter where he actually trained with a or not trained with, but he actually like was taught by a Chinese, you know, acupuncture specialist. like the different points of the body and how, you know, the body reacts. What?
Talking about Mazdov.
Mazdov? The MMA fighter?
Jose Mazdov.
Yeah, where he hit that guy in the forehead and incapacitated him?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Mazadov did that. And he learned that from just talking with a Chinese, you know, practitioner of acupuncture. So you're saying that pressure points are bullshit. They can be used practically in certain situations. Yes, it's situational. It's not like in the movies.
So, whoever God, that's where God fucked up.
But what I was getting at is that he hit him in the forehead, and he essentially incapacitated him while the guy was grappling him and trying to force him to submit. So yes, it can work. It's situational and it doesn't work like in fiction, but it can work.
Movie logic, that's movie bullshit. So it's kind of hard to say would it work against Goku, because in fiction it works, but in a real fight, because if we're doing real like MMA bout, that would not work. If Batman was to do pressure point techniques to Goku, he would be doing literally nothing. Now in comic books and fiction, it would work because they actually they can actually work there. I mean, it worked with in Dragon Ball. But yeah.
Oh yeah, and Dragon Ball pressure points was the thing too. And Goku defeated people who had 50 plus years of pressure point application. So no, Batman would not be able to do this shit.
Goku's actually been hit with pressure point techniques before. He got hit with it by Tien in the 22nd Budokai Tenkaichi tournament.
Thank you.
He held him up against the wall and did it. It didn't incapacitate him. And also, a Mercenary Tao did it to Goku when they fought in the rematch. Once again, didn't do anything significant to him.
Yeah.
And it's more of a skill-based hack, if anything. Against the Batman who laughs, an alternate universe version of himself, boasting all of his own skills, he was able to adapt and create an entirely new fighting style effective against his doppelganger, Nightwing.
Well, yeah, the Batman who laughs, which is not the main series Batman. From another universe, he even fought himself. So are we even able to fucking make that a feat, or are you just using that as an example to talk about how consistent Batman is?
Batman's first protege and someone he was just seen trading hands with was able to get the better of a character named Midnighter in hand-to-hand. Midnighter being capable of running up to 1,000,000 different combat scenarios before a fight ever happens, opting to exercise what he sees as the best outcome. And Batman would scale above this level of precognition and analysis. Furthermore, Batman is able to combat Karate Kid multiple times, once in an environment with zero gravity, something Batman has no experience fighting in at that point, with the Legionnaire stating he could learn much from Batman. Karate Kid says he could learn not some, or a little, much from Batman.
It doesn't necessarily mean technique. When I say technique, I mean physical technique.
Karate Kid is a master of every martial art in the entire galaxy in the 31st century, with his fellow Legionnaire Brainiac 5 having the lowest combat score of their entire team. Brainiac is, of course, a 12th level intellect, meaning he has more knowledge than the entire planet Earth put together. Karate Kid is more skilled than that, and he could even still learn.
Is Brainiac a martial artist?
Even state 12th level intellects as having more knowledge than anyone in even the entire universe.
Last time I checked, Brainiac was just a pure knowledge. I mean, Superman fought him, yeah, but Superman can't fight. We've said this already. He's not a martial artist. Superman can brawl.
Karate Kid hails from the 31st century is important, seeing as the complexities of martial arts typically increase over time. Take the average modern-day boxer and pit him against one from like the 1930s or something. Not only that, but the galaxy of the 31st century is well connected, with many alien species all forming a galactic collective. Karate Kid uses specific moves adopted from these otherworldly cultures, meaning multiple planet-worthy skills on top of being from the far future. Goku.
Okay,
Goku.
Let's stop right there. Let's talk about it. First, the Captain Midnight one. I think that one's actually a pretty good one, because you have an opponent who can read, movements and fighting and think of multiple different scenarios really fast, and you have your student who can match that, and you're above that student.
You're still holding back. Like, if you're spending all your time thinking about multiple, and this doesn't fucking work. If you're constantly thinking about all these different scenarios, you're holding your body back when fighting. There's people who get their ass knocked the fuck out because they're overthinking shit.
Then yeah, that is really good. That's a good feat to use. But the Karate Kid one, I would not go with that one too much. He stated that he knows all these other martial arts, but like I stated, most martial arts are pretty useless. Like
here we go again with the useless martial arts shit.
Only a handful of them actually work, and not every technique from those work. Only some of them.
Well, a lot of martial artists, a lot of martial arts contain the same type of techniques. That's where I have an issue with. Saying something's useless is not useless. It's just a lot of these art forms share the same techniques. They just have a different name.
And on top of it, it also does depend on what you're doing, because you know, striking fighting style is inferior compared to grappling. If you're a grappler, if you do BJJ or wrestling, you will have a far better chance of winning against a pure striker. Pure striker versus a pure grappler is going to beat them.
Actually, no. Even in MMA, pure grapplers are losing to strikers now because they had time to adapt and figure out how grappling works. Back then in the early UFCs, first things first, it's debated if those, you know, early UFC matches were rigged or not in favor of the Gracies. But as time went on, okay, and you know, martial artists started to understand other styles, they found out how to, with pure striking, combat a grappler. Okay. And if you really want to be technical, every fight begins standing up. Yeah, have grappling as something to like lean on, so you don't just get overpowered when put on the ground. But if you're smart enough and skilled enough, you can keep yourself off the ground and keep the fight standing up the entire time and be able to knock your opponent out. A lot of the fights in MMA nowadays end in TKO anyway. So what he's talking about doesn't make any fucking sense either.
Even though striking has, you know, significantly, you know, tons of like you know, techniques that are very useful against a grappler, they wouldn't even need to use that many techniques to immobilize you know, a striker. A striker can have way more techniques, be more technical, be more skilled, but a grappler would be better because they're, you know, they have different, you know, fighting capabilities that will.
Once again, a majority of the fights in MMA end with TKO. Grappling is not even as dominant as it used to be.
You know, contradict that. So that's where I feel like it doesn't even matter if he has that many. Also,
all fights start standing up.
This is kind of a dumb argument that he's saying that Brainiac has a 12th level intellect, so he has all that knowledge from all those other, you know, from everything, and you know, he should know.
Yeah, because Brainiac isn't known for martial arts.
All these martial arts and stuff, and he's the lowest, and this guy's above him, and this and that. Here's the problem with that: he's misconstruing knowledge and knowing how to do something. Just because you understand how something works doesn't mean you can, you know, do that thing yourself. For example, there's a lot of fight analysts out there, you know, announcers and different like people who make articles and stuff, and even YouTube videos that do analysis on fighting. And some of these people are very, you know, smart at it. They're like, you know, masters at the craft, and they're, you know, experts, and they have a lot of expertise. But here's the thing: they can't really apply that in a fight. Why? Because it's different from, there's a difference from knowing and actually doing. You can have a great knowledge of something, but that doesn't mean you can do that.
Yeah.
Like, and fighting is definitely one of those things. You can be very, you know, intelligent when it comes to combat and understand the ins and outs of fighting, but that doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. I myself do, you know, I train and stuff, and even though my mind is very good with understanding how fighting works, when I watch, you know, boxing or MMA or Muay Thai or kickboxing, I understand it, but if I was to go into the fight, I would get flustered because it's a lot more, you know, confusing. It's a lot more difficult because...
That's why, once again...
It's a high-speed fight, which makes it a little more...
He's also explaining what I was just talking about with the other guy that could run multiple scenarios. You're thinking too much. You're not letting your body react. You're not being like water, like what Bruce Lee was talking about. Which is why I don't understand that feat. He could run multiple scenarios in his mind and come up with the right outcome. Okay. So, like, a majority of them scenarios could be countered if your body is trained to deal with the shit without thinking, and then you will have a lot more speed applied as well.
Complex. So yes, Brainiac might have the knowledge of those, but he cannot apply it very well. That's why he was the lowest on there. He's trying to say that, oh no, their skill is just so high that he seems low, even with his knowledge of all that. But like I said, knowledge is not enough. There was a great interview with Muhammad Ali in this.
Oh yeah, and all this bullshit, you know. He mastered all these styles from the entire galaxy. Goku and the entire Otherworld arc. Like, watch this shit. Just watch it. This ain't just the greatest warriors in the galaxy. This is the greatest warriors in the Z universe from all of history. Goku was better than all of them.
This one reporter guy, and he's like, Muhammad Ali's like, man, how do you know so much about fighting? You know so much about fighting. You're great. You're very smart, but he's like, but you don't even know how to fight. You say. He's like, yeah, I'm just an analyst, and he was showcasing the difference. Even though Muhammad Ali acknowledged that this guy had a lot of knowledge of fighting, even probably more than him, he could not do at all what Muhammad Ali was. Not just because of athleticism, but also it's harder to apply those in an actual combat scenario. And if you ask anybody that has done martial arts, they'll tell you the same, that yeah, seeing something and knowing it and doing it are two different things, and it's far more complex to do it, especially in a fast-paced fight, which happens in fractions of a second.
These planets, but they tend to be more in the form of superpowers than martial arts skills, so it's hard to say how much they actually matter for this video.
Well, they're relative to each other, and they're weaving each other.
Examples being like Yardrat instant transmission, etc. The Caped Crusader as well scales to a
Goku did more than just superpowered shit, though.
Skill, seeing as the two have sparred many times throughout the years, with the Dark Knight managing to keep up and counterattack her assaults pretty consistently. Wonder Woman is, of course, withholding her strength so she doesn't just murder Batman or blitz him or something. She's just trying to test her martial arts skill against her teammate, and this is insanely impressive even with just that, as Wonder Woman is actually a match for Ares, the god of war. And Ares has been stated to know every single military tactic and strategy from the beginning of time. In certain stories, the birth of gods like Zeus and Ares are stated to have been around 5 billion years in the past. However, seeing as Mount Olympus and other divine realms transcend the DC...
Okay. Wonder Woman was holding back more than just her powers. Okay. That's the first thing. She saw Batman as a capable sparring partner, but still did shit like blindfold herself or like try to hold herself back in some capacity. Excuse me. I said, forgive me. In some capacity, excuse me. Batman being able to spar with a held back, purposely, I'm not trying to go all out Wonder Woman does not mean that he scales to Wonder Woman.
Multiverse and even the Speed Force, an energy field that allows for time travel throughout the entirety of time. This should simply mean Ares has purview of all time outright. Even certain writers for DC's websites say Ares as being as skilled in martial arts as anyone could possibly be, which would include from the beginning to the end of time, given Ares' position in the DC cosmology. Of course, Ares and Wonder Woman,
as anyone could possibly be, and Wonder Woman beat him to the end of time, right? But Wonder Woman beat him.
Are stronger than Batman, and Wonder Woman may be the superior fighter, but the fact that Diana sees Batman as a worthy sparring partner either means she considers his skill level as worthy to test herself, hone herself, or she's been teaching Batman throughout their encounters.
I think she's just teaching Batman.
The world's greatest detective has even been showing dodging attacks from Diana while managing.
And I don't know how canon to the comic books this is, but I think she likes him. But that could also play a role in something else.
indicator. Another encounter sees Batman dodging and ear-striking a blindfolded Wonder Woman, her skills being such that the loss of her sight is no hindrance at all. Either way, this is an insane level of
She still is fighting blindfolded, like
skill showcased by our Dark Knight.
Okay, so now he's gonna get to explain why he thinks who would win in this fight. I'm just gonna give you the who he thinks is gonna win because you should have watched the video before watching mine anyway. He says Batman's gonna win because of all that craziness, especially about the Ares thing. Like I stated, the whole Ares thing, the problem with that is he stated that he doesn't want to cherry pick and pick, you know, low end feats or anti feats that will make him look weak. But then he's now cherry picking and using ridiculous feats that make him sound absurd.
oh, the thing, Batman is not the one who fought Ares. Wonder Woman was, and then whenever she sparred with Bruce, she was always holding back, which means that Bruce is not at that level. That's what that means. Oh yeah, and Wonder Woman kicked Superman's ass. So all the people who say Superman's untouchable and Goku wouldn't be able to touch him, Wonder Woman beat him. So this whole shit is, I mean, yeah, she had magic, but she clearly was the more skilled fighter. Okay, and Goku, you know what, never mind. Like, Goku himself actually has defense against magic, so he actually might be a match for Wonder Woman, but that's beside the point. I said might be. He would be more than enough. All right. Once again, we're talking about a guy who is outclassed the entire Z universe and other world, and then started training with the gods, the literal gods of Dragon Ball, the warrior gods who are, you know, who were millions upon millions of years old and shit, billions. And you're telling me that Batman is going to defeat this man in hand to hand?
That is not.
It's not happening.
Let's be honest. Ares knowing all these combats. This is the reason why I was explaining there's a difference between military combat and martial arts, because there's a difference between a fighter and a warrior. A warrior, their fighting skills are specifically meant for killing, and they might not be as technical. You don't have to always be super technical. Whereas martial artists, they're more for, you know, hands-on, hand-to-hand fighting. So Ares also uses weapons. I'm pretty sure a lot of his martial arts are more weapon-based and more military tact style, you know, based of fighting. So.
Oh yeah, weaponry. We're talking about hand to hand. That's another thing. Like, he's right about that. Ares uses a lot of weapons. Ares even has people to aid him in the wars that he fights. And we're going based off the Greek mythology and shit. And considering how Ares is primarily, you know, someone who uses their art form to kill, I seriously doubt that he's going to be using too much hand to hand. Well, you know, that's just my opinion.
Style is more military-like, whereas Batman is more like martial arts, and that's not the same thing at all. If you put people who were in, you know, wars and stuff against, you know, martial artists, they're nowhere near their level. Why? Because martial artists, the way they train is different. If you know fighting, like I said, or you understand more, you'll understand that there's a clear-cut difference between fighting styles and skills and mindset and, you know, planning and, you know, battle strategy when it comes to it. So his battle strategies and his tactical, you know, fighting when it comes to wars is significantly different than a fight. It's like saying, oh, if you're a fighter and you know how to fight, then that means you would have a perfect battle strategy mind. No, you would not. It's completely different because you have different, you know, things that you touch upon in there.
Yeah, it's a different skill set.
All these other, you know, warriors that had done great things, they might have had some martial arts skills, but they were not the highly more skilled martial artists. It's just that they had a particular things that they were good at. For example, Genghis Khan was able to conquer many nations throughout using, you know, horseback. It was horseback fighting where he had horses and bows and arrows. That was basically him using a couple of set, you know, skills that he had.
Now, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier in the video, though. When I was saying that a lot of kung fu and, you know, kung fu and a lot of other shit was used in military martial arts, primarily meant for killing. Okay. Yeah, in a sport sense, they wouldn't be the best. Okay, and it is still a different skill set to use weaponry in hand-to-hand, which I agree Ares is probably more weapons-based than hand-to-hand based, because it's easier to kill with a sword than it is with your hands against another, you know, resisting opponent. But at the same time, it doesn't make the martial arts useless. Okay, the skill levels may vary, but the martial arts itself is not useless.
To dominate, and he had horse riding and he had arrows, which completely compensated for the lack of anything else. So there is that I have a problem with that. Also, him fighting against Wonder Woman and stuff like that. Once again, who knows? Maybe Wonder Woman's going easy on him. But there is one thing in particular that I do want to talk about.
She was going easy.
Once when he's fully done this video towards the end. So stay tuned towards the end, because I have something really special I want to talk about.
I mean, I already seen the video, but I'll let it play.
About this, because these fights about martial arts stuff, when it comes to fictional characters, can be a little bit confusing at times.
So, with both Goku and Batman's prowess having been explained, who would actually win? Well, genuinely, while Goku is underrated by many people, Batman is probably on another level, and he pretty much has something to counter Goku at every turn. For example, Goku's feat against Hit's time skip, which is one of his probably more impressive things he's ever done, wouldn't actually be much compared to Batman's own ability to predict at what point someone would arrive from the straight-up future, even ignoring Robin's ability to somewhat keep up with someone with a similar ability to hit. I see this fight most likely playing out like this.
Okay, that part, that is like what I mean. This is what I mean. You need to understand more of a combat style. If you know martial arts and fighting, you know that that statement that he made there was kind of dumb. Just because he's able to predict, you know, scientifically accurate stuff like, oh, who's going to come through the future and stuff like that, does not mean he's able to predict what a person is going to do in a fight. That's not the same thing. How does that help him out? He's saying he has precognition in one, field where it's like science and understanding where he would end up. That means that it will translate to fight. No, there's a lot of people that are smart that might understand, you know, inner like mechanisms of other stuff, like even the human body and how it works. But that doesn't mean that they will be able to, you know, understand how to do that in a fight. So that was a dumb, argument that he made there. He can tell where somebody can come in the future, so he can, you know, tell how a person's gonna fight.
But the problem is you're comparing a feat from a base-ass human to a superpowered being against another superpowered being who's also a very skilled martial artist.
No, not really, unless if he's shown specifically, perfectly, accurately reading somebody's fight.
If anything, I'll put Goku's precognition and ability to learn and adapt above Batman's.
There. Also, once again, the guy that Tim Drake was fighting, he didn't really have any martial arts fighting skills, so it wasn't the same. Hit is a trained assassin, so he's trained in the art of killing, whereas that guy was just a regular dude that was just trying to stab somebody.
The two will start trading hands, with Batman's far greater depth of knowledge proving outright superior to Goku, who by the time Goku starts to adapt, which he probably could adapt to any martial art, Batman would simply just switch to another style in all likelihood.
Probably could. Goku has. It's not a probably could. He has. Watch the series. The fact that he's even able to adapt to Saiyan martial arts he's never even seen before from an alien from a different planet and fight them casually like this, he was just any other opponent, should tell you some shit. The fact that Goku could swap hands with a god of destruction and only lost because Beerus was just more, powerful, not necessarily more skilled in hand-to-hand, should tell you something.
But if not, just adapt himself, as of course Batman is a super intelligent genius, and this applies to his fighting ability. Goku would essentially accumulate too much damage, only possibly turning the tide against perhaps a single style, with Batman having up to 127 different fighting methods to fall back on any time. Even things like, of course, pressure point attacks and damage, Goku could probably adapt to, as we see in his fight with Granola. The only thing that's questionable if Goku could, of course, adapt to is maybe certain types of submission holds, which would incapacitate him. However, the Dark Knight would even possibly have some measure of infinite options, giving his scaling to Wonder Woman and Ares skill levels. Goku would simply get outmatched before he could ever hope to adapt to a fraction of that, and of course,
his scaling the Wonder Woman and Ares skill levels. Wonder Woman who was holding back and even teaching Bruce techniques. Meanwhile, Goku's getting training from Whis. And hand in hand. Now, granted, the shit Whis was saying was shit that Goku already knew how to fucking do. I don't know why they made him such a damn idiot in Dragon Ball Super. That's beside the point. He's canonically being trained by, you know, essentially the gods now. But you're saying that Batman outclasses Goku because he's scaling the Ares. The fuck?
Goku's adaptation is insane, adapting to thousands, possibly millions of years in a few minutes, but Batman actually boasts abilities shared with Goku, such as autonomous movement, precognition, and adaptation. He was able to scale to and combat someone utilizing deadlier versions of all his skills in the Batman Who Laughs. And honestly, even disregarding all the different techniques Batman has in his arsenal, he probably just outclassed Goku in just straight brawling based on feats. And in conclusion, I mean, let's just get real. Batman's entire 80+ year run in this comic series.
Okay, wait. Hold up.
And in conclusion, I mean, let's just get real. Batman.
Okay.
Entire 80+.
That's Terry McGinnis. Batman accomplishes a similar thing. Okay. Okay, his conclusion once again is horseshit, but this isn't even fucking Bruce Wayne. This is Terry McGinnis. So how many of these are actually Bruce and you know what I mean?
Just his hands and tools. So him having to fight.
Okay, it was just his hands and tools. Batman overcame a lot of shit primarily with tools. So based on hands, back to what he was saying. He says that Batman's precognition is better than Goku's. No, it isn't. Goku being able to adapt to thousands, even millions of years of, you know, combat prowess. And he's able to do that on the fly as he's fighting. Showcases Goku's ability just as a martial artist by itself. I've never seen a comic where Batman beat Ares in hand-to-hand. You would have to fucking show me that shit. And I wonder if some, you know, DC writer, they come across this video by accident, see me disagree with this shit, and then be like, you know what? Let's make a comic book where Batman fights Ares hand-to-hand. Even though he's been losing to Wonder Woman or barely keeping up with her when she's purposely holding herself back. That's the issue I have.
Superhero level enemies as basically almost a normal dude obviously should probably mean he has a lot more going on. Now, not always, but in this case, it does add up that way. Anyways, guys,
So that was SethTheProgrammer's video on Goku versus Batman, you know, martial arts only. So don't say some stupid shit about, oh, Goku has this amount of power or whatever. I disagree with him in the analysis and who would win in a fight. I do think Goku would beat Batman's ass, and I'll get into why.
All right, let's listen to this.
Way of thinking is very incorrect. He's thinking this more on a power scaling sense, whereas when it comes to martial arts and fighting, it's far more technical and more difficult than what he thinks. And you can tell that he lacks knowledge when it comes to this field, because he thinks that, oh, if a person knows all these fighting styles, that means that it's very useful, when majority of those fighting styles, like I said, are useless as hell in real fight. Most of them just work well.
Yeah, well, I'm tired of arguing that. Doesn't matter what's useful, what isn't useful. They both were supposedly world-class level martial artists, and Goku has done training with the literal gods of his universe in their art forms, and all the training that Goku has, he always combines into one style. He doesn't just pick and choose which style he wants to use. He takes all those techniques and he combines it into one. It's like Jeet Kune Do except for Goku. Okay, or MMA for Goku. So to say that, you know, well, Batman has all these styles that he can just fall back on and he can just do... Goku has a bunch of shit too that he's falling back on. training from, you know, like I said, these other worldly beings, not just humans or just one person. In Batman's case, Diana. Like, Goku is already outclassed all the martial artists, all the humans in martial arts. So saying that, you know, Batman outclassed, it doesn't work like that. Like, no, you can't come with me with that.
Life, realistically, they are very not very useful. Now, he states that you know, that Batman has the same abilities as him, like, you know, precognition and, you know, his body reacting, but it's not on Goku's level. Let's not lie here. Yes, you know, you see different athletes, they also have, you know, their body can naturally react in whatever sport, especially in fighting. They naturally react because they do it a lot of times, but his level is not on Goku's. Goku, for his Ultra Instinct one, he has it perfected, so, like, you know, any attack you throw at him, his body naturally does it. He doesn't, like, have to think at all. Whereas Batman, he can do that, but it's to a very low level. One, it happens once in a while. Two, it doesn't last for that long. Just like a real person in real life that uses, you know, has their natural instincts kicking in a fight, it comes in, you know, back and forth once in a while. You know, in a fight, like, if you're getting knocked out around silly, sometimes your body might do it, but that is only once in a while. Whereas Goku's one, the ability of Master Ultra Instinct is his body naturally does it the entire time. So it's not on Goku's level. He's trying to say, well, they have that, but you need to understand the skill level of who, you know, what level they're at when they're, you know, using it. Batman, his level is more basic level. Yes, he can, you know, his body can react to stuff, but it doesn't always happen and it doesn't last long. Goku's one will happen consistently and for the entire time that he's able to use Ultra Instinct. So that is wrong. Also, his precognition, he has a little bit of where he can sense, you know, air currents, but Goku trains constantly in that. And key sensing is basically just the air currents in general. He has perfected that, especially against, you know, somebody against, like, you know, Dispo. When Dispo was fighting against Hit, he was like, I can tell the air currents and stuff when he was fighting him. And Goku was able to use that, also use the ability where he can read his movements and how predictable it was, and counter him, even though he was a lot faster than Goku. Goku was able to find out that his movement was very linear, and he was able to find a way to strategize against that. So let's go into those again. First, him saying he knows 127 martial arts. Like I said, majority of martial arts are useless. If you ask a professional, you know, martial artist or somebody who does do martial arts, they'll tell you, yeah, a handful of them are useless. Taekwondo is useless. Kung Fu is useless. Aikido. The ones that are different have a lot of moves that are similar because there's no way.
Okay, he finally brought that up. We talked about the moves that are similar. All right.
Have every martial arts having completely their own all fighting styles. There are going to be a lot of moves that are going to be the same, like a roundhouse kick, like a check mark kick, like you know, a
teep
kick. You know, all these kicks and stuff and punches, there's a limited amount of combinations you can have, and there might be a little bit of difference between them, like, you know, a stance or, you know, the defensive position and these martial arts, but in the end of the day, all these martial arts are going to have some stuff that connect. So even if you learn these martial like fighting styles, a lot of the fighting styles are basically the same thing with just a little bit of a change in it. So yes, saying 127 you know, martial arts fighting styles might sound you know, like crazy to people and interesting, like, whoa, you know that many? But in real life, if you ask them, like, no, you don't need to learn all that. That's useless. You're going to be wasting most of your time learning how to fight, learning all these other moves that won't work. And there's a terminology for it, and this is the one thing that I really want to specifically talk about this, because this topic about fighting, it really depends on your understanding of, you know, fighting. And there's two types of fighting. There's one that's called, you know, movie fighting or fictional, you know, martial arts, and then there's realistic martial arts. And these things do not really 100%, you know, equate or are compatible, and I'll get into that a little bit. But like I said, if all these 127 martial arts fighting styles were important, wouldn't MMA be applying all of them? But MMA usually only applies those select few that have.
That's because they have to follow a specific rule set. I mean, we could talk about Budo Taijutsu and, you know, how useless it is, but you gouge eyes out, pull hair, bite, or Nin Taijutsu. Once again, pull hair, gouge eyes, bite, groin shots. All illegal. All illegal when it comes to MMA. So using MMA as the benchmark for martial arts don't do that shit.
Mentioned, majority of those other ones are not really used, and the people that do use it are never really top level fighters, or just able to do sometimes, or when they do fight and MMA, they have the title of this and that, they don't really use that. They don't really use it. They use a different fighting style. So yeah, those are useless, and to a person who doesn't know fighting, that might sound crazy, but to a person who knows fighting, knows that that's a waste of time to do.
Anybody who really knows fighting, like really know, not just train. Okay, I train. Okay, I train too. Anybody who's actually like really gifted, skilled in fighting will tell you like legit that every martial arts has its purpose and a use for it. All right, it won't work in the cage because it's not meant for the fucking cage. It's not meant to be bound by a rule set. Like, I would rather go and train a martial art to defend myself against an attacker who wants to kill me than to defend myself against an attacker in a sports setting. Okay. That's just me personally. I prefer martial arts that utilize weaponry. Okay? That's just me, though.
Do that.
But that would be useless for the cage because I can't use it in the cage.
And a lot of these techniques are not that hard to do. They're very basic. They're not that difficult. Even I know how to do it, and I didn't extensively train in any martial arts. I have never trained in any other dojo. I might have done like a week in Taekwondo, but I didn't learn anything significant there. I learned this all on my own, so I understand a little more.
Okay, I sparred a bit. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert. Okay, well, I did spar with other people who actually do, martial arts. But I primarily have all of my training with Kenjutsu. Okay, Bato Jutsu specifically. Yeah. And before anyone be like, well, that's two different things. Well, Bato Jutsu is literally the start, okay? You have to be able to draw your blade before you can even use your blade. If you can't even draw the shit, what's the point? But I'm not finna go into details on that shit.
Because his body can naturally react, and he has precognition. They're not on the same level. Just because they have the same ability doesn't mean they're on the same level.
Yeah.
Goku's Ultra Instinct, it's basically his body is doing it throughout the entire time perfectly. Whereas his one, Batman, instinctually once in a while it does it, and for a brief moment. And his precognition, he might be able to do it also to a certain extent, but Goku constantly does this. This is how his ki sensing works, is with the air current. So he has trained with this and fought doing this his entire life. So that he has more expertise on that too. And he said, well, he'll be able to, understand all of his fighting, use different fighting styles if he's struggling, which I already stated. 127 of them, majority of them are going to be useless, so he can't really rely on Taekwondo to beat Goku's ass. He's not going to be doing kicks with his arms down. Goku's just going to punch him in the face. Now, if he did grappling, that he does have a point there, because Goku hasn't been shown to be really that much of a grappler, but then again, with their powers, it's pointless to grapple, because if somebody grabs onto you, you can literally, they grab you, you put your hand right there, you can blast a hole through their chest, or, emanate energy throughout your entire body and just...
Okay, back to what I was getting at about striking and how it translates. We were talking about MMA. We were talking about grappling, striking. Okay. Goku would be skilled enough to be able to deal with an opponent so that they wouldn't be able to get the grapple onto him. Once again, he's fought world-class martial artists who've been training their whole lives and has been able to deal with them in tournament.
Blow them up or disintegrate them, so that can be pretty useless. But in a fighting sense, yes, I will say Goku doesn't have grappling, which is very important. But who knows, if it's like in a world where he doesn't have powers, he would have probably adapted and learned how to grapple or whatever. But yeah, the adapt.
Well, we can't say he will learn. Well, okay, Goku does learn by observing once. He can't learn that shit. But only edge that Bruce would even have on Goku would be grappling. That's the only thing I could say. say it's a big deal, but at the same time, fights can end without the grappler even being able to get grappling in on them.
I can kind of see that on there. Batman is very adaptive, but
All right, and given how Goku's precognition and ability to react and move is better than Bruce's, if we're taking Ultra Instinct into account, then Goku could find a way to get Bruce down or off of him before Bruce could even get the grapple off. That's the only the only win condition I have for Bruce Wayne is the grapple.
I wouldn't say that that's very useful for Batman, if I'm being honest. But let me talk about the biggest problem with this. A lot of times in comic books, they want to overhype all these characters and say they can do this and that. But the problem is the writers are not experts in this. Like, a lot of times they use scientific terminology or certain stuff like that, but that scientific terminology is just BS. It's not real. It's made up, you know, intelligent language. And I'll get into that a little bit. But then there's the realistic aspect where this is how it really works in real life, and this is how it works in fiction. Now, if you see a lot of martial artists, a lot of real martial artists like boxers and MMA fighters, they kind of, you know, they sometimes clown, you know, movie fighters, and they call out fans or people that watch movies and think that, oh, they can do this and that, they can do that in real life in a real fight, and they tell you every time that, hey, no, the stuff that you see in movies are unrealistic. In a real fight, that would not work. Majority of the stuff they're doing, it's too flashy, it's too crazy. Usually the fights, the simple moves are the best, the flashy ones don't really work. And that's how I see kind of Batman's fighting style. Yes, he stated he has all these abilities and he can do all this crazy stuff, but when you see his actual fights, he's not really that skilled. He's not doing anything crazy. He's not doing anything that technical of a fighting. His moves are either, you know, movie type of martial arts where it's ridiculous and it's unrealistic in a real fight, or it's something that's very basic that is considered to be, you know, some high level ability or whatever. So there's the problem with that. And the perfect example I can use for this is when it comes to intelligence. There's a difference between how realistic intelligence looks like and intelligence in movies. You have characters like in movies, they state out a bunch of random ass, you know, scientific terminologies that either are...
Oh yeah, I highlighted that comment because I read that before already, but I already knew about like striking compared to grappling. But this guy that I highlighted, this guy, I'm not even like clicked on the comment anymore, but the guy I highlighted, he knew what he was talking about too. Just wanted to bring it up or showcase that.
And you know the way the context that they're using it in, and scientists will say this is the real science compared to that. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because it's a good, you know, comparison to, you know, fictional martial arts, what it would look like and what it actually looks like in a real fight. So like when it comes to intelligence, some people will say, oh, this character is the smartest, or that character is the smartest. Personally, I think Senku is the smartest fictional character I've ever seen. And some people say, well, this character can create a time machine or this and that. But here's the thing. The stuff that they're using, the intelligence they're using, it's movie logic. It is not 100% proven to be true. Like, Bulma is definitely smarter than Senku because she can travel through time and do all this stuff, even Dr. Gero. But they are using sci-fi, science fiction, intelligence. The stuff they're doing is sci-fi and it's not very realistic. Whereas Senku, the science he's doing, it's more grounded and realistic, but it makes sense. So technically, on a technical aspect, Senku is the smartest fictional character of all time because he's explaining stuff that is real in real life, that is really applicable in reality, and it's intelligent in depth. Whereas there are other characters like Rick Sanchez that are smarter, but the inventions and stuff they're making is not very realistic and scientifically accurate. Same thing with fighting. Batman, I think he's more of like a movie type of character with his fighting, where his fighting style and his skills are very unrealistic and it's very movie-esque. Like, this would never work in real life, this would only work in a movie. And let's be honest, no offense, and I don't want to sound like a little bit racist or whatever, but the creators that made him were some old white dudes. I highly doubt these old white dudes knew shit about martial arts, and they made him all the way back then, you know, a martial artist. But if you see his martial arts moves, he does some of the most basic ass martial arts fighting skills, and it's like he doesn't do any top tier fighting. If you read any Batman comics or watch any of the animated movies and even the TV shows, besides, you know, the live action ones where they have to make it more realistic, if you watch those ones, his fighting styles that he does, it's not very crazy. He's not doing anything very technical. If you had like a somebody who is actually analyzed real fights, they saw Batman comics and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that doesn't make much sense. That's not realistic. That wouldn't really work that way. That's not this and that. Whereas Goku, on the other hand, it's also pretty unrealistic with some of the stuff he does. Like sometimes he doesn't block fully, but still, Goku's martial arts skills, as an actual martial artist, will see that it's actually realistic, and it's very fluid. Whereas Batman's is very nonsensical. He does.
Well, at that point, that's not necessarily like state. That's more application in the sense of the creator designing, or animating or drawing the character. Like, just because the artist can't portray it properly doesn't make the statement any less. Nah, because I was just making an argument for Kefla. But granted, what I was using was the rules that were already established before Dragon Ball Super even existed for the entire Dragon Ball universe, and Super claiming to be a continuation will have to abide by said rules. Now, even then, though, never mind. His statement stands. Fuck it.
Very realistic, styles of fighting, but a lot of it's fake. Like like in Wushu, the Bunk Sao thing. He's doing a lot of Bunk Sao and these and that. In real fighting, you don't block like this. When somebody tries to punch you, you block like this, like Miyagi from Karate Kid. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, it does work. Actually, it works a lot. I've used that before. Like, you don't need too much. Like, just look how to deflect in boxing. Okay, if you're sitting there turtling in your guard, you could be opened up for something else crazy. You don't want to be like, oh my gosh. All right, so fuck it. First of all, back to the whole, Batman not being showcased as a great martial artist. It still was established though, based on his character lore, that he is an amazing martial artist. That's just character lore. Okay, now comparing that to what I said about Kefla. Kefla, was said to be something, but then contradicted by other characters and their feats, and the contradiction of the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and even GT lore. So there's a lot more against Kefla than it is against Batman being a good martial artist. Now, he's talking about the deflection techniques.
Some very realistic, styles of fighting, but a lot of it's fake. Like like in Wushu, the Bunk Sao thing. He's doing a lot of Bunk Sao and
Bunk Sao is Wing Chun, not Wushu. But like I said, I use this a lot. Okay, I deflected punches in this manner. Okay, in sparring, you don't need too much to be able to deflect and counterattack. But the point is just like in boxing. The point is, don't put too much pressure or too much energy into deflecting. You're kind of flowing with it, if that makes any sense, to get a counter. Like, what he's doing is completely like exaggerated. I wish I had like a fucking camera or something. Fuck it. Okay, so how to parry punches.
Hey everybody, I'm John from Expert Boxing. Today I'm going to show you how to parry a punch. Specifically the down parry and the side parry, which is how you deflect the punch when you try to defend it. Okay. So Richard here is going to throw a jab. For me to deflect this jab with the down parry, all I have to do is just slap his glove down slightly.
Yeah, slightly.
Throws a jab.
See?
That's it.
That's it.
His glove down slightly.
And it opens them up. It opens them up for a counter. It's the same concept with Wing Chun. Okay, that's what Pox, like, that's what it's meant to do. Like, Tosao Pox is meant to just be a slight movement to direct their punch away from you so you can go and counterattack. That's the point. They do this in boxing. Different, like, it looks different because, well, one, they're wearing fucking gloves, but at the same time, it's the same concept.
Just a slight downward tap.
Slight downward tap. Yeah, see?
From here.
And you gotta make sure that you're not just standing there like an idiot. You gotta, yeah.
Or counter 1, 2. So that's just a down parry. It also works if he throws a right hand. So throw right hand. Okay, down again. Again. Counter jab.
And then there's also different ways to do it where you literally use your elbows. Okay. And then you gotta make sure you're protecting your ears as well, and you don't just use your hands to try to block hooks to the ears. You had to use your arm, okay? And you're kind of like you're keeping your arm bent in kind of a triangle. I can't visually show you. I don't have a fucking, you know, camera.
Hey guys,
But just sitting there turtling, you know, trying to keep your guard up, it's just gonna open you up for more shit.
movies and even the TV shows. But a lot of times his movements are fluid. Also, if you just look at the fights, these people focus on, oh, you know, the things that were stated. But look at the fight itself. Has Batman done anything in a fight that would be considered crazy? A lot of times he's doing random, like, stupid, like, kung fu BS that you would see in, like...
Okay, well, let's just remove everything he just said in the end. We're talking about fictional characters. So based on their universe, these guys are the biggest, they're the top dogs when it comes to martial arts, right? Or supposedly the high tier when it comes to martial arts. Okay. Goku has had training since he was literally able to walk. Since he was able to first start walking, he was trained in martial arts. Okay. And then he trained with the greatest martial artists by leagues, you know, in the world. Then he trained with the literal god in you know, of Earth in that universe, right? In Dragon Ball. Then he trained with King Kai, who was in charge of that quarter of the galaxy. Like he was in charge of, you know, not galaxy, of the universe. He was in charge of overseeing all of that. And he created martial arts and created techniques that people couldn't even master. It took tens of thousands of years, and no one has yet to even master the technique. Goku was able to learn it and perfect it on his own. Okay, back when ×2 was too much, Goku could do ×10, all right? And it was primarily just ki control, which ki in Dragon Ball is a big thing. Ki is martial arts in Dragon Ball. That's where we have, you know, the difference in misconceptions. But even before, like, even with all of that, the ki shit, Goku has fought the greatest martial artists in the world and won. Okay? And then he became the world's strongest. Then he started fighting otherworldly beings, and he was able to adapt to martial arts, you know, from other aliens and other warrior races, from like starting with the Saiyans, from outside of Earth, even outside his galaxy. He was able to combat martial arts from another warrior race. Then, you know, he's able to fight a being who was a mixture of himself and all of the other strongest warriors in the universe at the time. So he had Goku's techniques, Piccolo's, everybody else's techniques, everyone else's martial arts knowledge, everyone else's skills. Goku was able to fight hand to hand, swap hands with him, and it'd be close. The only reason why Goku lost, per se, was because Goku didn't have the power output. He had the skill, not the power. And then he dies, willingly giving up his life. He trains in Otherworld with the greatest warriors of all time and with King Kai for 7 years. And when I say greatest warriors, I mean in all of Dragon Ball, like the entire Dragon Ball universe, because Otherworld spans the entire universe. It's not just Earth. He mastered, you know, a new form, trained with King Kai, and, you know, fought in the Otherworld tournament. It was the best there. Then, you know, he fought against Beerus, you know, the god of destruction in Dragon Ball. Then he started training with Whis, who is literally the most skilled and strongest fighter in all of Universe 7. So Goku's getting this type of training. Batman started when he was a teenager, I believe. He you know, after his parents died. Like, Goku was fighting before, you know, Batman's parents even died. They were basing off like age. You know, if they were born on the same day. Goku was already training before Batman even started. Then Batman learns all of the martial arts, which, once again, all the Earth martial arts can be, you know, sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, so you have, you know, the world martial arts, all of these martial arts, even sharing techniques from other martial arts styles. But he trains it. He mastered all of them, right? That still only makes him the greatest martial artist in the world, which is Roshi level. Master Roshi level. If we're talking about hand to hand. Then he starts training with Diana. And what SethTheProgrammer is claiming is that Diana, because she fought Ares, and Batman is sparring with Diana when she's holding back, that puts Batman on Ares' level. No, it does not. Batman is still world level. Maybe even, you know, outer world level, because he's fought other beings. But these other beings weren't all martial artists. That's the issue. Everybody in Dragon Ball is essentially a martial artist, or can have skills to trade blows with other martial artists. Like, even Frieza was a martial artist before people were like, Frieza didn't train. In OG Dragon Ball Z, for Frieza to even be able to do things like the telekinesis and all that, that means that he would have some form of ki control, which is martial arts in Dragon Ball. So all this bullshit from Super, fuck Super. I'm sticking with Z right now. Okay, and we stick with Z. Goku is outclassed, has outclassed the greatest warriors in the universe. The greatest fighters, the greatest martial artists in the universe. Batman doesn't have that level of skill. Not based on the lore. Sorry, but that's just my conclusion.